I would just say, you'll get through it, and don't be afraid to ask for help if you get stuck. Other people have been there before, especially in your group. I mean, there's going to be people that reach out, encourage you, ask for a resource if you need one. Don't feel like you're stuck. Ask for ideas, how to overcome, hurdles and obstacles. I mean, everything can be achieved. It just takes some effort. And, if your goal is long-term, then know that this isn't some instant, money game. It can come quick, but sometimes it doesn't. And you just got to hang in there.
Hi, I'm Wyatt. And I'm Grace. And you're listening to Our Dad and your host of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast and our Friday interview day, where we get to talk to other short-term rental investors about their journey into the short-term rental game. And so today we've got George Rivera. And George, thanks so much for joining us and sharing your journey into short-term rental investing with us today.
Yeah, thank you, Shawn. Excited to be here.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, I always like to start with a backstory, with the background, right? That's, for me, always the funnest place to start is, who is George? Where do you live? Where'd you come from? What pays the bills? What got you interested in real estate investing in particular, maybe short-term rental investing? Then we'll talk about the journey into this game particularly.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur. I've been my own boss since like the mid 90s. I started back when I was in high school. Used to watch infomercials of this guy, Don Lapre, ages me quite a bit. Some of the old timers will know what I'm talking about.
I know Don.
Yeah. So I bought his program, and at the time I was like, man, I'm like 15, 16, and I'm thinking I can't do that, but I'll buy the program. I'll use my mom's credit card, stuff it under my bed, and when I graduate college, I'll pull it out. And I was like, wait, I could do this while I'm in high school, essentially. So I did it. I didn't quite follow. I followed the plan, but I didn't quite get the success he was promising. But it planted a seed in me of like, I need to figure out this whole be your own boss thing, and it's just game over from there as far as the entrepreneurship goes. So I still went to college. I was going to get, go pre-med, follow my dad's footsteps. He was a medical doctor. So, hey, let's keep this going in the family. But in college, it was like third, fourth year in business. I started to make really good money, almost as much as doctors make while I'm in college. So I was like, you know what? I better switch to marketing so that I can get a degree that complements kind of my business as opposed to something completely different. Yeah. So, I've been entrepreneur since those days. I started in the supplement space, selling supplements through direct response marketing, newspapers through direct mail, eventually online, where I still am online selling supplements to this day. And as far as the real estate stuff, that was always on my radar as an entrepreneur. You're always getting offers. Remember Carlton Sheets and some of those guys from back in the day. Bought some of those courses, never did much, but it was always like in my head that once I have enough cash flow to afford investing in real estate, I was going to do that. So I'd say started about 10 years ago investing in real estate on the side. I built a portfolio of up to 20 properties, mostly single family rentals. And then I caught the short-term rental bug over the last couple of years. And, I think every good investor should have a nice balanced portfolio. Here's my short-term, long-term, this and that. But I was like, forget the good investor thing. I'm all excited about STRs. So I liquidated all of my single-family rentals because they're just not fun. Very little profit. I know there's appreciation tax benefits. All that stuff's good. But I was more, distracted in a positive way with kind of the more higher ROI, some of the lifestyle benefits to STRs. You're not going to use your long-term rental. It's just a property, probably not an ideal place. It's just a money thing. So it's kind of the best of both worlds you get with the STR. And that's what really attracted me to it is, hey, we could have a vacation home or several homes and utilize them when they're not being rented out, and then offset the cost plus make some money while we're not using it. So that's really what got me here. But yeah, I know kind of went all over the place, but
no, that's awesome
background there.
Yeah, that's perfect. And it's interesting. And I love talking to entrepreneurs, business owners. That is a demographic that is really attracted to STRs. And business owners, entrepreneurs typically have a decent amount of disposable income. So we start to think, okay, where should I start to put my money? Where should I start to invest outside of my business with some of this extra money that we're making? And most of us start with some sort of real estate, right? There's a lot of us stick with the real estate and we try to navigate through the real estate. And this is kind of my experience as well. I've been a full-time real estate investor for 24 years now and STRs for the last 16. And STRs caught my attention back when I did it because I could treat them like little businesses. I started to realize there were these levers that I was learning to pull in business with marketing and customer experience and standing out and being able to get somebody to choose our offer above all the competition, right? Those are things you do in a business, right? When you have a product, you gotta have the offer correct. You got to have a product that can fulfill. You've got to understand the customer experience, right? We do that as entrepreneurs, and we were able to do that on short-term rentals. We realized that a long time ago. And we started to realize also that by doing those things, we were able to kind of not necessarily dictate our complete income, but we could dictate the amount of the income potential on these properties and hit the top end of the income earning potential in the markets we were in, right? And so it's interesting. It sounds like on your journey, that was something that was attracted to you. Like you're like, listen, I was doing, I had 20, 30 single family, long-term rentals, and started saying, hey, I'm going to liquidate this because I like this a little bit over here, but I'm kind of attracted to it because some of the skill sets I have as a business owner, entrepreneur, I'm able to apply to this asset class where you probably weren't typically applying it to your single family long-term rental portfolio, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was completely passive. You get a property manager and they kind of work on filling any vacancies and stuff. So yeah, like you said, I was able to tap into a lot of my marketing skills and knowledge. It's about capturing the lead, nurturing the lead, educating them, making them a compelling offer, closing the deal, follow up for reviews. So it's quite exciting.
Yeah, it's fun. And so when did that journey start for you? And walk us through that and how you started to navigate getting into this asset class.
Yeah, so first STR we bought was in Fredericksburg, Texas. It's more of a local kind of place. People in Texas, are very aware, probably not so much nationally, but so we brought a 16-acre ranch out there that had a tiny cabin out there. And we were we still are planning on putting some multiple units out there. It's got a pond. We're going to kind of make it into a bigger pond. We put a windmill out there, stock tank pool. It's real, it's Texas rustic. So that was our first one. Took us a while to kind of get the hang of it, just like anything new that you're learning. But once we got the hang of it, we got really excited about investing in more, and then we just started to get off our beaten path as far as investments as we knew it, thinking differently, and then now we've got 3 properties in total. The other 2 are up in northern Michigan, which is completely off the map for us. Long story short, we like to travel the country quite a bit, and we like to give donuts to the police officers in every state. And so we're trying to hit all 50 states. More for my son, just something cool for him to do. And we were in Ohio for somebody that works for my company for his wedding, and we're like, hey, Michigan's right up there, and we're not, unless you're like targeting Michigan, it's tough to just accidentally drive through it because of the Great Lakes around it. So it's like you got to really target it. So we're like, hey, let's go up there. So one of my good friends has a lake house up in Michigan, and I said, hey, you know the area? What are give me 10 things to do in Michigan, because we don't really know it. And he said, hey, just come to my lake house and make that your home base, and we'll figure some things to do. So we went up there, and we just loved it up there. We didn't even leave. We're just like, we're just going to hang out here. And, being real estate investors, we're always curious, like, what are these homes worth around here? And, we live in the Austin, Texas area, which is kind of this booming with, real estate prices. I mean, lately they've slowed a little bit, but, since COVID through now, it's just insane. Yeah. And so hearing those prices, I'm like, oh my gosh, feels like it's practically free in comparison. And you get so much more for your money. So, just talking with people in the area, they were like, yeah, there's a lot of good summer, rental vacation income up there. So we bought one property, and then we started working on that. We actually have a trailer that we took up there, and we kind of visit and stay, and then kind of watch progress. Then we go back down. The property from purchase to like somebody sleeping in it, collecting rental income, it was a long time. We probably took a lot longer than we needed, but I would say almost 3 years, like 2 months shy of 3 years. So there's like lots of learning in between all that. And one of them would be, if you're going to do a massive project like that, you better live on site, because I noticed that a lot of my contractor bills got a lot cheaper when I was there on site. So that would be my biggest tip when doing things remotely. But while we were there working on that, I saw another property go up for sale, and I was like, oh my gosh, this will be my competitor up here. And we're working on this house, and this house doesn't need as much. So we bought that house. They're both lakefront, on the same lake, on the water. Similar price points per evening, similar amenities. Both have oversized game rooms and again, on the water, docks and all that fun stuff. So yeah, we just kind of went, all in the region, and that's kind of how we got
So
up there.
so it's interesting. I always love hearing that story of how you navigate different areas and different locations. And, a lot of people pick the places that they vacation the most. And you've got this unique road trip of delivering. So tell me just a little bit about that. Just, I'm curious. You deliver donuts to local police like stations, or how do you
Yeah,
do
we
that?
just try to hit a police station in every state. I don't, not to get too deep into it, but there was just a lot of bad PR a few years ago
Yeah.
around police, and we're like, what,
Yeah.
we're going to show them some love. So, and of course my son, he's 9 now, but he was like 5 when we started, and he just like loves doing it. They just light up like a Christmas tree when you do it, and it just shows appreciation for our law enforcement.
That's awesome. I love stories like that. And that's what led you to kind of going up into Michigan, some acquaintances up there, staying up there. I mean, your lake houses are beautiful. We've seen them. And those of you listening to the shows, we always post these links in the show notes or wherever you're listening or watching on. Go check out these properties because the proximity is spectacular, right? And it's a lot of fun. It sounds like so. One of them was a major remodel, and that is a lesson, right? I always try to peel back the lessons learned from some of these journeys, and we hear that a lot. We hear it on build jobs, major remodels, that either being on site or having somebody that you know and trust and you've worked with before for a long time on site and local is critical, right? It's a critical piece of the puzzle because a lot of us do not live there, and so either having that relationship and or going on and living there, right? I just had Tony and Carrie Ockley on, and they did a build job in Jackson. And Tony owns he's a roofing contractor, owns a roofing company in St. Louis, and ended up halfway through that build job having to literally stop working, go live there for 4 months to complete the build job. And so it can be, that is a challenge. And logistically, you've got to be able to think about that, make sure you can get to the finish line with the right people, whether it's you or somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we learned that the hard way, just paying through the nose essentially. But
right,
it's an education, and the way that I justify it, obviously, if I can go back, I do a lot of things different and probably save a good, nice 6-figure chunk of money. But it's investing in a business, and I believe we'll get that money back. It's not like this was our personal home that we just sunk a ton of money into and we're never going to see. So that was the only optimism out of that I could take with me.
Is this the first summer you guys are live with those properties?
Yeah, this is the first summer. And in northern Michigan, prime
it's a
time
summer market. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, prime time begins kind of like June 15th ish, because even early June, like say Memorial Day, it's still chilly up there. I mean, we were up there. We were up there for a couple of months. House, completely done, but we're like, hey, we got a home on the lake and it's not booked out. And I told my wife, we're not blocking it out. If somebody books it, we are out of here, because I'm like, it's ROI time. And it's funny, like at the last year, my wife's like, hey, it's gonna be fun spending July 4th up there and doing stuff. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, we'll be in our trailer at the edge of the lake watching people on our dock celebrating July 4th while we're cashing in. So there's always that balance of let's make some money versus the family. Like, hey, let's enjoy our time here. And of course, you have to also have that. But yeah, it's just figuring out that sweet spot.
Yeah, that's it's interesting when you have those markets. I'm the same way you are. It's like, no, we're not. One of my most profitable properties was up by Yellowstone National Park, right by West Yellowstone on Henry's Lake, on a lake. It was a lake house there. And you're right. Like, there were still a lot of times where snow was still underneath the pine trees on Memorial Day. So your season really didn't start until mid to late June, and then really ended September-ish, right? You're right after Labor Day. It starts to get pretty chilly. I loved the fall up there personally, but our bookings slowed significantly. So we had to make our money in like an 80 to 90 day period for the year. And you'll find that, on these properties have the ability to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. You just have to plan for it, and you don't want to use it one of those major weekends that you're, because that 1 week is going to pay probably a month of your expenses during the wintertime, right?
Yeah. No, exactly. So that's kind of our philosophy. I mean, if there's openings and we're in the area and we can sort of manage a quick escape, I'm willing to do that. But yeah, as far as blocking it out, definitely not something you want to do, especially early on. You want to build that
Right.
clientele. I mean, we've already got next July almost booked completely for both houses.
Yeah.
So we can't stop
How's
that
this
cash
year?
flow.
How is this summer pretty much booked solid already, or how's the launch and how's the first summer in business?
Yeah, so this year I would call it pretty good. I mean, since this is our first year, I don't really have a basis to compare against, but I would say satisfactory. We opened the properties officially to the world back. I want to say it was like late January, and we got some bookings pretty quickly. Of course, it's all for the summer,
Yeah.
so we really had nothing up until kind of mid to late June, and then all through July, and then August is pretty good until the 15th ish, and then here, there, and then a little bit in September, and then it kind of dies off until next year. So one of my big priorities is to figure out how to get the rest of the year some occupancy. I know it's not going to be prime time, but just some occupancy here and there. Just taking advantage of the other things to do in the area. I mean, during the winter, it's like like a winter wonderland. There's a lot of snowmobiling, skiing, all ice fishing, like all the kind of hardcore winter sports. It's like a mecca for all that. Especially the snowmobiling. It's like, like a mile from the house is the beginning of all the trails. There you can go hundreds of miles. So it's definitely known for that. So it's just about targeting, those people so that we could, continue the bookings through the year. And my goal is just to have it offset throughout the year, and then summer can be where it makes the profit.
Yeah, that's good. And that's what you're kind of navigating that. I'll tell you with our property, just because it's similar, they're not the same market. We didn't have the ice fishing in that area as much. That the lake I was on was really regulated they would actually close. It would close for the winter for ice fishing, and then it wouldn't open up until Memorial Day. So that wasn't an option, but the area is super outdoors. You've got all the snowmobiling. You did have fishing in the rivers and stuff still, but pretty cold, right? And we found that for us, we started shutting it down in the winter because we weren't having as much. I felt like it was a lot of wear and tear on the property in the wintertime for the amount of people that were coming through and the amount of money we were making. It was easier to shut it down. But what we really started doing is it became a wait list only property, and we were really able to push our rates after we kind of got established with some repeat customers and everything in that summertime period. And so, our summertime period rates were so high and covered, and it was a very profitable property for us, really just with the summertime. So you'll have to kind of navigate that. And look, it could be something like that, but it sounds like there might be a little bit more going on in the wintertime than what we had up there. And so wintertime traffic might be, again, they don't pay as much as summertime travelers, right? It's going to be a little bit more, the nightly rate I'm sure will go down, but when it's that seasonal, it'd be nice to have that secondary season in the wintertime, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, just to cover expenses is nice, and anything else would be a bonus. And also just something to keep our marketing going. We're marketing on Facebook, getting some leads through there. We've got the Stayfi, where you connect and market to that. I think we're still working on the sequence there, but just keeping engaged with people. Using a lot of my marketing skills and some of the stuff I've learned from you guys.
Have you had any success with direct bookings with the marketing? Have you had some success there? I know that with Scott, I saw you got your Profit Maximizer site. You're running some Facebook ads you mentioned. And so how's that going?
Yeah, I need to get, I have a project manager, just kind of leveraging him from some of my other companies that I have set on this. So I should ask for a report to see. I do see that we've gotten some bookings. How to kind of measure the ROI on that. I'm still working through that. So probably have them do kind of as we get closer to the end of prime time, kind of do an analysis on that and just kind of see where it is and see how we continue to follow up with those leads over time and all that good stuff.
Good. I'm excited to see that report as well. I know that we track that really close across our Vodacy family and over hundreds and hundreds of properties. When we've got those sites set up and we use the ad campaigns that we help you guys set up, we're averaging over an 8-to-1 return on ad spend. So an 8 ROAS, which is awesome. That for every dollar people are putting in, they're getting 8 back out. So I was always curious on these when we have these conversations of if you're seeing the same thing. And so we'll have to look at that and track that.
Yeah. I feel like we're probably not quite there, but I'm pretty sure it's profitable. So we'll get a rundown. Our pricing's a little high for the region, so but we feel like we justify it with what we're offering. But
Yeah.
so we're just kind of working on targeting those kind of more affluent, prospects out there.
Yeah. Nice. And so is the Fredericksburg property, because that's just a couple hours south of you guys in Austin, down in the hill country there, the little wine country. You've got but it's a wine region that's getting really popular with the vineyards, right?
Yeah.
And so even nationally, it's starting to get very popular. But what is that property like under, like, is that an active short-term rental property where you're actually, the cabin on it is a short-term rental, or is it one of those that's a project until we put the other outbuildings?
Yeah, it's a short-term rental. I do have a shipping container that I purchased to add out there. I have the plans for it. I just, so much investment going into Michigan. I was like, let's just park that for a little bit. Let's see some ROI on Michigan, and then we'll kind of see. But the plan is to add a shipping container, and there's like no shortage of just creative stuff to do with a shipping container. Like those clear garage-style doors, and make it real modern, and I have a nice little hot tub there, and kind of bring the inside out or outside in, or however the phrase is, but maximizing on the living space there. So yeah, there's plenty of land for that, for another kind of tiny home, maybe even like a trailer, slab or something, just to bring in some more revenue. But yeah, right now it's an active STR. It's a little cabin. It's probably ranges from $150 to $200 a night, so it's definitely not a huge one.
Right.
Yeah, so we have it. We're changing property managers. I'm with a kind of like more of a national one right now, which I think they're fine. Like no like major complaints, but I kind of wanted to go with somebody more local who will inject more local knowledge, local marketing, and that they've got experience of taking kind of mediocre occupancy and kind of jacking it up a little bit to where most people want it to be. So we'll see if that works out.
Good. What about management on the Michigan properties? Because those are a little bit further away from you. How are you handling that one?
Yeah, so I mean that's pretty much completely passive, except for just communication on stuff like, hey, we need to order more of this or that, and certain things I've given them liberty to, hey, if it's under a few $100, just do it and bill us, so that we can keep things moving flawlessly. But actually, our neighbor on the first property, she grew up on that lake, and it's a small interior lake in Michigan. It's not one of the Great Lakes. It's called Bear Lake, and there's two Bear Lakes in Michigan. So this one is Kalkaska County, Bear Lake Township. So it's that'll kind of help specify a little bit better. But she grew up on that lake in that region, so it's very beneficial for guests that been asking her, hey, where do I go for this? Where do I go for that? Yeah. Kind of the little local insider tips and just how to get around. So she's been great. We also found a really great kind of handy couple, essentially, handyman and a handy woman couple who, I mean, they can pretty much do it all, especially maintenance wise. And we've given them plenty of projects to do, like, kind of redoing a deck and things like that. They've come to become really good friends to where we trust them. And so we've developed what we call the A team out there. We have even a contractor who we've come to trust quite a bit, and that's kind of hard to come by. It's just through trial and error that you get to that. So I would say, in my experience, most contractors, you can't really trust them, and you shouldn't. And if I can go back, I would change things up. But I think when you do find one you can trust, then you kind of go from there, and so long you feel confident with them. So it took time, but we found our A team up there.
That's awesome. And it's, I've always been a proponent of, and you've kind of got both sides of it, a very localized small boutique team and the national team, right? And not that you said, I don't have major complaints on the national side, but there are some big benefits of having that local team. And I've always leaned toward the local boutique type management style because of that local knowledge, and it just elevates the guest experience so much more than you realize, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the big thing. And you get to know them too, and you get to know them, like them, trust them. They know you, they trust you, and know that you guys are going to take care of them. And all of a sudden it becomes a very symbiotic relationship that it works really well, which doesn't happen with the big major national brands very often, because you're just not even sometimes dealing with the same people on a regular basis.
Yeah, exactly. There's been quite a bit of turnover. And I know some of their strategies to acquire those local boutiques just to kind of buy into that, homegrown feel. But I think over time they kind of lose that. Because, it's like, how can you keep it that homegrown local feel for that long when management's in another state or something? So kind of loses that charm after a while.
Right. Awesome, George. This is good. So this is first year in on those ones. We've got some big plans. It's funny that you're, and maybe you do. Do you have any construction background at all? It seems like, you said you started off in the supplements and all that stuff, but you all of your projects are projects, right? All of them are either remodels, or we got the land down in Texas with the small cabin, but we're planning on expanding all that. So do you have a background in any sort of development or construction? Because you just kind of lean in that direction, it feels like, when you're building this portfolio.
Yeah, not really. I guess if you call the last 2.5, 3 years an experience, I guess I've developed a little bit of construction chops, I guess you could say. But I still wouldn't call myself a contractor or anything like that. But definitely a lot wiser, and I would just be more in control of it. I'd be, kind of where the site is, where the major work's being done. Like I said, until you can trust them, and then still, I mean, you could trust anybody, and they get complacent too. So you always just got to make sure you're setting goals and realistic expectations so that there's no disappointment.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. And so what's the plans for the future? Are we gonna stop at these 3 projects? Are we gonna, you want to keep building? Do you like the game so far? Or you want to take a little breather for a minute and not be in the middle of a project for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I'd say in the short term, I'm feeling breather. Let's just get some cash coming in. Let's validate these processes that we're doing. And we couldn't have done it without you guys and the help that we receive from you guys. So my advice to anybody who's looking to do this is don't do it alone. Get some help, find people that have been there, done that. I mean, just some of the processes and stuff, just it shortcut our path to something, that we could depend on. Before we were just kind of like, how did other Airbnbs do it? And then, who knows if they did it right? And we're just trying to piece things together. So yeah, definitely recommend that you follow somebody who's been there, done that. But yeah, as far as the short term, it's just seeing the plan play out. Let's bring in some cash. Let's get excited that we've got something profitable. I mean, my goal, I don't know if this is insane, but I like to scale things, like I scale my supplement company and my other businesses. And so I want to shoot for the stars. I want 30 of these things. Initially thinking about it, I'm just like, oh man, that's 30 different headaches potentially with these projects. But I think moving forward, I would try to find a property that's a little bit more closer together to where we want it to be. Unless you just get like some steal of a deal and you can already kind of factor that into the acquisition, you got to have the vision to see, okay, I know I'm going to dump a good chunk of change in it, but at the end, is it going to be worth it? And that's kind of a risk because a lot of those projections can be off. But if you have that vision, which I don't, my wife has it, but I don't have it. She just saw a lot like that, Leo's Lake House. I'm sure you'll share that Leo's Lake House. That one was so different. So if you look that up on Zillow, you'll see the original house. It was just some tiny little rinky-dink cottage, and now it's like this high-end luxury home. It's just not even the same house at all. I mean, technically it's considered a remodel, but we lifted it to make it a legit first floor, not just this little basement that's damp and cramped and not worth anything. And then we expanded it. We put an oversized garage into it. And then a buddy of mine who's also in the STR game, he's kind of who I want to be when I grow up. He's got a $15 million portfolio. So I was like, hey, what do you think? And he's like, and I'm sure you guys, and it was in alignment with you guys too. He's like, turn that massive garage into a game room and then you're welcome. I was like, deal. Cause like, what am I going to do? Store cars in there and, so, make sure to make the most of your property, give them something to do. Cause people, when they book a lake house, they want to be out on the lake, out on the water, and hopefully they get to do that. But also sometimes weather doesn't allow them to do that. So, you need to give them something to do. And actually one of our reviews to our other property, Lakeside Oasis, is, at the lake, it's beautiful, but it was raining, but we didn't care because we were inside. Kids were playing games. We were watching movies. There's TVs in every room. It's just like, there's just stuff to do. So they'll never feel like, oh, they got gypped out. At least that's the goal.
That's awesome. And you've got wintertime too, right? We're trying to fill those times where they're not using the lake. And so I think it's critical. It's all part of the experience. And rather than saying, hey, I need this 4-car garage or 3-car garage or whatever it is that we're going to, and nobody's using it, let's turn it into something that is valuable, that adds to that customer experience while they're there, and give them something else to do. And all of a sudden that ROI starts to go up. Like your friend said, it's like, okay, do this and then you're welcome, because he knows you're going to be cashing checks for a little while because of that decision.
Yeah, and it's a relatively small investment compared to everything else we've done. So it's just kind of one of those, kind of the cherry on top.
Right. And I think that you also alluded to, hey, listen, I'm going to take a breather for a minute. But like you said, the now these properties are fairly turnkey outside of some communication with your A team. And I always tell people this asset class, the time invested is very front end loaded, because people will always say, well, there's nothing passive about short-term rental investing and this and that and the other, because they typically have not set it up to have a turnkey at the end, or they're referring to that front end that is a lot of work, and there is a lot of time and effort put into it for sure, but it's short-lived in the grand scheme of things. In the grand scheme of things, if it's 6 or 9 or 12 months, even like in your case, it was a 3-year project, you're going to own these properties for a while, right? And it's a fairly short-lived, really intensive, time-intensive, effort-intensive on the front end. But then after that, they can be very turnkey, especially when you have the A teams that are taking care of it and you're just communicating with them once in a while.
Yeah, no, exactly. All that is all positive stuff. So yeah, people thinking they're going to be tied to this forever. Yeah, it's a short period, and it's like I said, we could shortcut the time that we spend on all that front end stuff if we find a property that's a little closer to where we envision it to be. But then there's a cost to that too. So you're going to pay for it, with some time or money initially. But the payoff is what we're looking forward to, and we've seen enough examples of positive payouts following this method. So we're just sticking to it.
Awesome. Love it. Awesome, man. Well, listen, I love these conversations. I always appreciate you guys coming on and being willing to share. Before I hit record, I always say, is there anything you do or don't want to talk about? And nobody ever says they don't want to talk about. They're like, hey, listen, we're an open book. Let's talk about it. And so it's fun to just hear the background, what brought us into it, how things are going. And so, you mentioned, don't do it alone as a piece of advice. Is there anything else at the end of every show? I always ask people, if you go back and give yourself a little advice in the beginning, what would it be? And, and you kind of alluded to a few of those things. Is there anything else that comes to mind before we wrap up?
Yeah, I would just say, you'll get through it, and don't be afraid to ask for help if you get stuck.
Yeah.
Other people have been there before, especially in your group. I mean, there's going to be people that reach out, encourage you, ask for a resource if you need one. Don't feel like you're stuck. Ask for ideas, how to overcome, hurdles and obstacles. I mean, everything can be achieved. It just takes some effort. And, if your goal is long term, then know that this isn't some instant, money game. It can come quick, but sometimes it doesn't. And you just got to hang in there.
Yeah. Awesome. Love it. And I appreciate that. And it's, even on the advice side of it, I always tell people, there's so many, people that get into this game. They're super capable. They're going to figure this out on their own. They're going to figure it out one way or the other, with or without us, or with or without some mentorship or help along the way. But we want people walking into this with their eyes wide open, not making the same mistakes we had to make. And I look at it like a relay race. Like, I ran the first 3 legs for you. Let me pass you the baton so you don't have to run those hard legs and you go finish the race. Right. And that's the way I look at it, is to say, hey, listen, you can now take that baton and run faster than we were able to run on the final stretch. And so,
No, exactly. Yeah. And there's a cost to doing it any way you pick, there's a cost. Yeah. Let's just make that cost less. And, even if you think you know it all, I mean, just one little tip, one little thing. I mean, heck, the tip of, the game room tip or something. Right. I mean, that would pay itself multiples. So even if you think you know it all, just one little thing could pay for itself many times over. Yeah,
exactly. And it's funny how really successful people, business owners, successful people in whatever field you're in, we're like you just mentioned, you just need 1 or 2 things that are going to help you get a return on that investment, and they're going to help you immensely. Like I always tell people, maybe what if you know 95% of what we're talking about, but that 5% makes you an extra $100,000? Is it worth it? Right? And and that's how successful people look at things. If I could learn one thing at every conference I go to, I'm happy. Right? Exactly. I'm like, listen, I don't need to learn all day long every day from all these different things. Just teach me one thing. And I'm super happy with my investment being there. And I look at that all the time because I spend a small fortune on coaching and mentorship and everything else. And I don't expect to go in and everything they tell me is brand new and groundbreaking. But, there's going to be a percentage of things that I don't know, or I didn't think of that way, and that can make a big difference in my success long term.
Yeah, exactly that, and as well as just one good connection too. Just being around like-minded people. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome, George. Well, listen, man, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming on, sharing that. You guys that are listening, we're going to post George's properties in the show notes. You guys go check them out. I actually have had the ability to see the Zillow listing before, and then what it looks like after. It's crazy. I mean, you're right. It doesn't look like the same property, but you guys, success leaves clues, right? We post those properties in the link in the show notes for a reason. You should take some time and go listen or look at them on whatever platform you're listening on. Just go to the notes, click on them, because there are things that you're going to learn just by looking at the listings, looking at the properties and how they've come together. And so you guys listening, we always appreciate you spending your time with us. We know how valuable it is, and it means a lot that you spend it with us. At the end of every episode, I ask you 2 favors. The first one is, if you know anybody else that would like to be a part of these conversations, share the show. That is how our message gets out. We don't run ads. We don't run sponsorships. We don't want people telling us what we can and can't talk about or what we should be endorsing. And so we don't do any of that stuff. So the only way that this message gets out is if you guys share it, like it, give us a review if you have more than 30 seconds on whatever platform you're watching or listening on. And those things make a difference. Help other people walk into this game with their eyes wide open and be part of this conversation. And then the final and the most important thing that you guys hear me ask you at the end of every episode is to go pick that one thing you can do today, start building that life you don't want to take a vacation from. Cheers, my friends.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. Share this with other people you think need to hear about it. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Hey Grace, is there a website?
Yes! For more amazing content and expert advice, visit Vodacy.com.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.